He left his inheritance to some of his family members and friends. They were surprised by how little was left because he had given most of it away. One person said, Mr. Jack never had no idea of money. His mind was always on higher things. It reminds me of the words of Jesus, for whoever wishes to save his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake in the gospel shall save it. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? On this channel, I talk about C.S. Lewis quite a bit, and today I want to talk a little bit about his death, which was on November 22nd, 1963. He shares it with JFK on his assassination day, which kind of made his whole death kind of fade away in the background, Lewis's. And also Huxley, another author, died on the same day. So 3 people died all in 1963. Before he died, he wrote a letter to a friend, and he wrote, yes, autumn is really the best of all seasons. And I'm not sure that old age isn't the best part of life. But of course, like autumn, it doesn't last. He wrote this just, I think, a few weeks before he died. And that comes from this book called Jack by George Sayer. This was on my dad's bookshelf growing up. And it's a really great biography of C.S. Lewis. St. Theodore the Studite writes, the memory of death is always saving, and the more so when we stand in front of a deceased person. I imagine that when people were standing before C.S. Lewis's body after he died, they were challenged to live a life like he did. And even though the memory of death can do this, even more so when we see the people that we love pass on to the next life, it can challenge us to take our salvation seriously with fear and trembling. One of my favorite scenes comes from The Silver Chair when King Caspian dies, and all of Narnia mourns the loss of their king. What's interesting is that Aslan also cries, and this isn't the only time in Narnia that he does that. Of course, he reminds you of our Lord when he cries at the tomb of Lazarus. Then Aslan stopped, and the children looked into the stream, and there on the golden gravel of the bed on the stream lay King Caspian, dead, with the water flowing over him like liquid glass. And all 3 stood and wept. Even the lion wept, great lion tears, each tear more precious than the earth would be if it was a single solid diamond. These are the tears of God for C.S. Lewis. And he then resurrects King Caspian, but not in the world of Narnia, but rather in the land of Aslan's country. At that moment, the doleful music stopped, and the dead king began to be changed. His white beard turned to gray, and from gray to yellow, and got shorter and vanished altogether. And his sunken cheeks grew round and fresh, and the wrinkles were smoothed, and his eyes opened, and his eyes and lips both laughed, and suddenly he leaped and stood before them, a very young man. Of course, the focus of Lewis's writings was on our own immortality, that God wanted us to live forever. He writes, it's a serious thing to live in a society of possible gods and goddesses, to remember that the dullest and most uninteresting person you may talk to may one day be a creature, which if you saw it now, you'd be strongly tempted to worship, or else a horror and corruption such as you now meet, if at all, only in a nightmare. All day long, we are in some degree helping each other to one or other of these destinations. There are no ordinary people. You've never talked to a mere mortal. Nations and cultures and arts and civilizations, these are mortal, and their life is to ours as the life of a gnat. But it is immortals whom we joke with, work with, marry, snub, and exploit, immortal horrors and everlasting splendors. He really wanted to live a life completely abandoned to God, which is why he spent so much time sharing the faith with others, and even writing children's books that share Christ through the figure Aslan, which I'm currently reading to my own kids. I'm currently reading them Horse and His Boy each and most evenings of the week. And they're enjoying it. And I've realized, wow, what a great gift Lewis has given us to help bring kids into this imaginary world where they can get a little bit of a taste of heaven and a little bit of a view of God through this magical world. If you want to learn more about C.S. Lewis from an Orthodox perspective, you might be interested in this book called Further Up and Further In by Dr. Edith Humphrey. I've had her on the show for an interview. How close do you think his articulation of theosis and union with God is compared to an Orthodox understanding?
Pretty close. I mean, and it's not something except for that one little bit in Mere Christianity that he takes on explicitly in his apologetics. I think because he was very concerned not to be controversial in his apologetics. But as you say, it's something that he can do in his novels because people can grasp what the imagination, what their minds might be resistant to. But I think that the way that he describes this as the natural corollary of God becoming a human being, and as the fulfillment of God's call for us to be stewards of this world in his stead, and not simply to be rescued from the mess that we put ourselves in, but to even go beyond that. That's very Orthodox. So Orthodox don't have this sense of a V shape to salvation where there's paradise lost and paradise regained and it stops there. But there's paradise lost, paradise regained, and then it becomes a check mark, going on. And one does get the sense in, say, a book like The Great Divorce or the children's novel, The Last Battle, that this is something that continues and that will continue until eternity, that we become more and more and more and more like God. And that is certainly a very Orthodox view. Many of the fathers speak about not the static bliss of heaven and the rest of heaven, though those themes are there, but of the drawing closer and closer to God.
Yeah, it reminds me of St. Gregory of Nyssa, who talks about like that forever reaching out.
Yep.
And Lewis he really embodies that with this further up and further in, as you know, the title of your book. This growth and ever reaching out. It was a wonderful interview. I'd encourage you to watch it. And it's just a really rich time to learn more about C.S. Lewis, his love for the Lord, and even seeing some of the intersections between his own theology and Orthodox Christian theology. So again, check it out, this book, wonderful book. You can find it in the links below. This is just a short reflection today, but I was thinking about it because it was C.S. Lewis's death, anniversary of his death. And at the end of November, we'll have C.S. Lewis reading day for his birthday, which would be a time to celebrating his life. But sometimes it's nice to think about how they left this world. And Lewis left this world as a generous person who not only took care of the people that were around him during his life, but he left us a great gift in his writings and his evangelistic work. So thank you, C.S. Lewis, and thanks for joining me on Barrel Age Faith. Bye-bye. You can get $40 off of the Wise Phone 2, which I currently use as my phone. It's an amazing phone that helps you not doom scroll or be addicted to social media and other vices, because it doesn't have a web browser. It doesn't have email on here, but it does function like a phone. You can call, you can text, you can take pictures, you can do videos. It even has apps like Uber and Lyft. You can order food, maps to get around town, all the things that you kind of need in this modern life, while at the same time being able to have a boundary between you and work, or you and distractions. So you can be more present with your family, with your kids, with your spouse, whomever. This has been a very freeing experience for me to have the Wise Phone 2, and I encourage you to check it out here. You can get $40 off through my discount code KING today. Check it out. Bye.